Hi, this is IBM Museum. Just a brief video I thought of tonight, now that I have the ability to show this, is and this is working with the IBM PS2 Model 55SX after I've modded the real-time clock chip, the Dallas Semiconductor 1287 chip. And earlier I did show the time, and I wanted to show the date as well, just to kind of show that these systems are able to hold a current date, in this case being the year 2020, on the real-time clock, and addressing that aspect. And this is working with the Undocumented PC book, had some software on there. Oh, I have to get in the right directory. I didn't do a path statement to that. Let me get in the right directory. Okay. And going down through, let's look at this. And I wanted to show, and it's too bad I don't have a mouse pointer on this, functional on this program. I did have it loaded, but so as you can see there in the center of the screen, at offset 37 hex, it has that value of 20 in there, and that is to mark the century. With the PS2s, IBM went through and they remapped that offset location for what's called the century byte location. Prior to this, unlike the IBM AT, it was at offset 32. And as it shows there, it does say date century byte. Of course, it doesn't have the value of 20 in there. And then it says MCA checksum low. So they're repurposing that offset 32 hex into a holding a different value of a checksum, and then they move the century byte over to offset 37 hex. And that's why some of the newer replacement chips for the Dallas real-time clock modules don't work, because the clones just followed on that convention for using 32 hex as the century byte, and the real-time clock chip in those cases actually updates that location whenever you get working with the date or anything like that. That location is rolled over or checked and utilized for time in the system. So even though you may have your system going very well to begin with, and you have the correct date set in there, in this case a PS2, would, as soon as that value is updated, then instantly things are corrupted. It thinks that checksum is bad, and you have a system failure from there. And that's why my belief is just I modify the old modules, so I can have a new 2032 battery that I can change out on those things, rather than going out there and buying those real-time clocks. And I'm aware that there's ways to determine a compatible module, but this is just the easiest way for me. And I'll have a later video showing me dremeling away on the channel, and how I mount that battery holder on there, to come up with I can come up with just as low profile design as the original chip has. And in this case, it's a mistaken notion that that's just not microchannel, because I went through and investigated this, and it's also for the limited PS2s that use this Dallas modules, and that's the 55SX, the 65SX, which is the tower version of the 55SX, And then the later Model 35SX and 40SX also use those Dallas modules. And then the earlier Model 25286 and Model 30286, since they share the same planar, they also use those real-time clock modules as well. And so, hard and fast rule, every PS2 model below 50 is ISA bus. So in those cases with the 25286, 3286, 35SX, and 40SX, they're ISA models of PS2s, but they relocate. IBM went through and remapped that Century Byte location on them as well. Use the convention they had established for the microchannel system, so it's all PS2s go through and move that location if they used the Dallas modules that, and they did it on the other PS2s as well that didn't use the same Dallas module or have a replaceable battery, so it's not as much of an issue. You don't have to replace a chip, but with those ISA models that you have to replace a chip, if you get an incompatible module that goes through and has it to where that Century Byte location is still mapped to offset 32 hex, it's going to go through and not be functional in your system. So I just thought I had a chance to kind of show the update of what's actually held on a working system that's been set correctly with that. Now that we're in that have that 20 Century Byte location, that's just a BCD format that it saves that location, or the value that's saved in that location of 37 hex on the IBM PS2 models. So that's all I had for this particular video. My book, I have to actually go through, and there's something wrong with the CPU detection routine that I figured out before, and I modified it, and then I got a replacement book, and it's actually it's autographed by Frank, and on the cover, and I don't know how I managed to do that, but or how which books he was signing, or how I acquired that book. But it was just kind of interesting that it was autographed by him. And it's very good utility. It goes through and does show information on the system. I'll go through and figure out to get the CPU detection routine working again, like I figured it out before. But I use that UNPC, standing for Undocumented PC software, that came with the book, and he shows how to write those routines that go through and do these sorts of things. That's all I have for now. If you like this video, please please subscribe to my channel. And until the next video, this is IBM Museum. Thank you.